Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us for Tuesday Thoughts. And Tuesday Thoughts, as traditionally, it's kind of like our deep dive day. And with matches in the midweek, we got to kind of look at that a little bit too. We'll look at that a little bit more tomorrow with Tyler Pilgrim coming in at 9:15 as he always does, and hopefully we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast and have Dylan Butler join us at 10 o'clock, and we can see what's going on in the mind of Dylan and see what's up in the Northeast as we go. But we've got news this morning. Obviously, this is, like I said, this is what happens when Soccer's morning show does not have an afternoon show, and you end up with you end up with news because they don't consult you. You know, it's like I'd like for news to break during the show. For whatever reason, the amount of news that has broken during the show has always been very, very little. You know, and it's like we sit here and we wave our hands in the air, you know, like someone who does care. And we're looking for news. You know, it's like if we end up with breaking news, that'd be fantastic. But at the same time, most of the time, and like I said, I don't know why this is. But the news that breaks is always like at 11:15 or 11:30 or something like that. And so we are never blessed with the idea of news breaking when it does. I mean, other than late yesterday when one of the most handsome men in Major League Soccer, it becomes one of the most handsome men in Major League Soccer. So, the Olivier Giroud signing yesterday. So, once again, I'd love to know how they're going to fit it under the cap. That's just me. But, Olivier Giroud is joining in the summer, and I'd love to know how they're going to do it. I'd love to know. I really would. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. When we look at the numbers, we look at the numbers and we sit there and we go, okay, that'd be great. That's cool. It's like Carlito. That's cool. But you wonder how it's going to fit. You just do. I mean, with Denny Bouanga and his numbers and the numbers of everybody else. So, as a quick public service, let's take a peek at LAFC and find out last year. And like I said, we won't know the numbers until another couple of months, which is another part of the thing that we always consider to talk about. It's like, why don't we have this information? It's cool that you give us kind of like half information, how everybody fits in a roster. That's great. But how do we fit under the cap? And what's the wiggle room? But we're not there yet. This is last season's numbers, and we'll try and figure out. So, Kellen Acosta, 7 figures. Denny Bouanga, 7 figures. Chiellini was $1 million. Mm-hmm. Chiellini was $1 million. Let's see. Who else? Aaron Long was 7 figures. Ilie's 7 figures. Carlos Vela was 7 figures. So they had 6 dudes over 7 figures last year. And then, of course, we go back 2 seasons and we look at Gareth Bale and we're like, bruh, how'd that fit? So we'll see. So that one of the most handsome men in Major League Soccer becomes one of the most handsome men in Major League Soccer in the summer. Pars wants to know, who do we think we're signing this summer with the GAM money we got? I think Pars, more than anything, you've got to figure out if there's outbound interest first, and then you've got to figure out that kind of an absence. If a player leaves, then that ends up being your priority. Do you sign an extra DP? Do you sign the extra U22? Remember, with the new salary cap rules of engagement that are there, No, Amelia, they are. They are. Uh, but you have to look at outbound and well, I mean, left back is thinking. Yeah, left back. I mean, that's if there's interest in Caleb, because right now Caleb has left back there. Then, um, obviously, if there's interest in Tiago, and well, and Wiley, to your point, if you have someone who does well internationally, no, that's true. Caleb can't play all the games, but you also have somebody like Matthew Edwards, uh, and uh, there are some folks with the twos. Are they going to be ready? That kind of an impact that you could have there. But I think that the summer, I think, is going to be engaged by interest inbound, and if anybody leaves, and then what you do from there. So while, and this is the thing, is like we don't know what the scouting is currently, but that day is coming. The day is coming that Thiago Almada is going to, uh, give you that price tag that you're going to have to sit there and go, yes, we know that Thiago wants to move on and he wants to go and, test the European market. And so you've got to figure out how do you replace that. That's probably where that GAM might go. But I think that you're looking at the day when Caleb leaves in a couple of years. You're looking down that road. You hope that players are looking at it, what's going to best benefit them. But obviously, I know that Thiago is that centerpiece where folks are going to be looking. And so, how do you replace Thiago Almada? And I think, Wiley, to your point, I think that if anybody has, well, but remember, guys, and it's not all domestic. If Thiago has a good summer internationally, then folks will sit there and they'll go, "Ooh, Thiago Almada, Argentina," and they'll look at that too. It's the international play is also carved into the CV when it comes to looking for folks, and so just keep an eye on that. If he has a great international summer, price tag is there as well. Pixel Report, morning Pixel Report. This is the first time that you have been here, so welcome, and make yourself at home. Why do you think a lot of the players have regressed from last season to now? Saba, Almada, Silva, they look like threatening that in November. Regressed, I don't know if that's the word, but you have with Shande. Let's work backwards, and I think a lot of this, right now, I think a lot of it has to do with in the present tense, in the present, and as we're discussing things on a Tuesday, currently where things stand with Atlanta United. If you take the last example from the last match, I think that you've got a lot of guys who are feeling the pressure right now, and they're putting that pressure on themselves, and so it's the internal pressure that is attached to this. I think that, and it is the worst time on the planet to have all of your DPs misfiring. I mean, we can look at a couple of chances from Saba. You can look at Shande is a rhythm guy, and I think that Shande being in and out from injury, that's not helping him. And we know how, when you have somebody like Shande, when they're healthy, you got to feed the man. So you feed the man, he scores, he gets into that rhythm, and we see what we have. Same with Jamal. But when you come back from injury and you're a rhythm guy, it's difficult to get back into that rhythm. And then once that rhythm is there, how many matches have gone down the road? So I think that a lot of times you are, I think that right now, I think that a lot of guys feel the pressure that is attached to the expectations of this team. And then there are times where you try too hard. And I think that we've seen that where you're trying to force things. And I think that that's a part of it. So Yeah, but this is the absolute worst time to have all of your DPs and all of your big name guys not performing to the level of expectation that they have themselves, and then the team expectation. So I think that plays into a lot of it. I think that Pars wants to know about Derek Williams. Don't know. Initially, it was what, 2-4, I think it was. But remember, it's about uh, the individual. It's not necessarily about we can sit here and say, look, in let's see, in 6 weeks, I've got a birthday. How will I feel on that birthday? I could say right now I'll feel great. But then as we get closer and closer to the birthday, things could change. With the injuries, it's you've got a couple of different levels here. With an injury, it's how does the injury respond to itself, and then how does the player respond to the injury, if that makes any sense. Where rehab is the muscle itself, or and I think it's a calf in Derek's case. I think in any kind of a muscle thing, you could feel great as an individual, but then that part that's injured that you're trying to rehab, it could be a little slower than the rest of your person. So, you're looking at something like that. You could sit there and say, 2-4, 3-6, or 4-6, or what have you, but that's just a baseline. How the body responds to the recovery and the physical training and getting back to 100%. That's the element in all of this. I could sit here and say, yeah, they said 2-4 with Derek initially. I know that we're getting close to the 4, but how does Derek's body respond in that rehabilitation stint? So we're getting close. Are we there? That's a question for Derek's body and Derek's physiological makeup more than anything else. But I'm trying to see what I know. Caleb cannot play all the games. And then you've got to try and find, the individuals. If it's a twos individual like a Matthew Edwards or someone like that would be ready for that next step. Don't know. That would have to be seen in practice. Or do you sit there and you go out and find somebody as a left back while Matthew is trying to get to full song on the first team? So those are the kinds of things that we're staring at. Tom's talking about Thiago's contract, opening the door, staying another full year if he doesn't get sold. And Tom talks about form. No, I mean, Pars and Pixel going back and forth this morning about system. Emilio, and Emilio to a point, yeah. If there's going to be something involving Thiago Almada, you want to make sure that it's done before 6 months left in the window, because then you could sign a pre-contract. But I don't think Atlanta United is going to let that go that far down the road. So whatever the decision is, Atlanta United is going to look in the best interest of Thiago and the best interest of themselves. They're not just going to let the window, creep up on them and go, oh no, there's 6 months left on this window. Thiago can leave. What have we done? No, the front office is definitely keeping an eye on that. So, let's see. Yeah, Bars is hoping that there's a party to celebrate. And yeah, me cooking the food. Are you sure you want that? Yeah, and Tom, yeah, we noticed this yesterday. Gajardo, Matthias's dad, available for those that missed it. Do you want that? Do you want Gajardo? Do you want that kind of chaos? Do you want? Would you want Gajardo here? I mean, and I know that the fandom in all of us. Ooh, Gajardo. There we go. And you bring in someone like that. So, yeah, Gajardo's out on the market. Jesse Marsh is not. Jesse Marsh will be opening kickoff coming up here in just a little bit. And to Dell's point, missed out on Marsh. Gajardo's top choice. I don't know. But we'll see. And Emilio, my concern with Gajardo would be you have to blow up the roster, adding pieces expected. Don't think dismantling is necessary. True. And so Gajardo's on the market. And it was rather intriguing at the very least to see that yesterday. But good morning to everybody, first and foremost. Now that we've gone down the road 15 minutes and already started talking, and that was what I like Tuesday Thoughts to be. Tuesday Thoughts is kind of like the mop-up for Reaction Monday. If there's anything that was left on the table, that's what it's here for. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. Morning, Pars. Morning, Emilio. Morning, Wiley. Morning, Pixel. Like I said, this is the first time Pixel's been here. Morning, morning, Tom. Airborne DJ. I'm trying to see if there's anybody that I missed. Morning, Dell. Okay, so that's the good mornings from the news and review portion of everything. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends, and like I said, whatever's on your mind, go ahead and hit it. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And here is the QR code. As I cover up the Alliance Nurse Corps, I have to do it this way. How do I? Hang on just a second. There we go. The QR code. If you are watching, however you're watching us, if it's on YouTube, if it's on Twitch, if it's on Twitter, and that is the QR code to get into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget when you check out, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So Dell mentioned somebody's off the market. Somebody's off the market. And that's Jesse Marsch. There are a couple of things to get into here. And it might be a bit of a deep dive here in kickoff. Jesse Marsch is now the new head coach for the Canadian men's national team. We'll get into that in a second. Jesse did the car wash yesterday, and there were a couple of things that were asked in his availability. And these are both courtesy of our friends at One Soccer. The first question has to do with what Jesse Marsch feels about the growth of the program as the Kings of CONCACAF and where they can go from here. And so here's Jesse's answer to that question, courtesy once again of our friends at One Soccer.
Well, you're right. Winning CONCACAF in World Cup qualifying was a massive, massive achievement. And it, I think, has changed the dialogue, certainly for this group of players, right? Certainly for the expectations that they have of themselves. And yeah, along with that come, certain pressures and the awareness that we have to meet even bigger goals. And I think we shouldn't be afraid of that. I think we should be ready to take this responsibility on fully, to understand that we need to emerge in the group with U.S. and Mexico as the three powers of CONCACAF. And I think that, that case can already be made. And then the question is, can we push on to continue to move the needle of the sport in this country, right? And that's from a youth level, from a development perspective, and now continue to push the program and the sport in our country so that we can develop and compete more and more at the international level. So, of course, that means every tournament, Copa America, Gold Cup, Nations League, and certainly the World Cup, that we want to put our best foot forward, that we want to perform at our absolute best and compete for trophies for. So I'm excited about that challenge. The competitor in me is excited about, I have so much respect for the U.S. national team and for the Mexican national team. And I think that those challenges will be big, but there's no reason with this player pool that we can't push ourselves to be certainly in that conversation and hopefully win some trophies here.
20th men's head coach in program history, 170, 66, and 103 managerial record, according to Canada Soccer in the release. Leeds, RB Leipzig, Red Bull Salzburg, New York Red Bulls, Montreal Impact. Takes over immediately with a contract that runs through the World Cup of 2026. Kevin Blue, Canada Soccer CEO, General Secretary, released a statement, said all the right things. Mauro Biello, remember, had been serving as the interim coach after John Herdman skipped out and went to be the new head coach at Toronto FC. Biello was a candidate for the permanent job. Now, you have the playing resume of Jesse Marsch: 14 seasons, DC, Chicago Fire, Chivas, 96 to 09. Assistant under Bob Bradley, reached the round of 16 in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. Montreal Impact at the time, 12, 16, and 6 in 2012, left by mutual agreement after the expansion club's inaugural season. Took over Red Bulls in 2015, coached the year, led them to winning of the Pie Plate, then went into the Red Bulls family, worked his way through there, fired by Leeds with the club just above the relegation zone. Canada Soccer looked to hire a general secretary first and then hire a men's coach. Timeline delayed when former MLS exec Allison Walker was hired but never took up the general secretary job in January, citing undisclosed personal reasons. Then the search resumed after Blue was appointed in late February. Canada's ranked 49th right now internationally. Canada's been drawn in a pool with Copa with Argentina and Chile as a part of all of this. And remember, that Argentina-Canada match is the first match in the Copa here in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, June 20. So welcome to the Copa. You get Argentina, and it's going to be here in Atlanta. So the first matchup for Jesse Marsch is going to be here in Atlanta against Argentina. High-profile friendlies against number 9 Netherlands, number 2 France. Canada went 2-2 under Mauro Biello. No word on Biello's future. No word on his assistants' futures. Although I have heard some things about how the news was delivered, and we will, we'll see if any of that has panned out as it goes. So, formally introduced, John Molinaro at Sportsnet says he was the most successful. Herdman was the most successful bench boss in the history of the men's team, helping it qualify for the first World Cup, reached an all-time high of number 33. And so Herdman, and this is the words of Molinaro, tired of the political infighting, labor disputes, and financial crises that plagued Canada soccer during his tenure, he, meaning Herdman, walked away from the job and left the organization in the lurch as it prepared to co-host the biggest sporting event on the planet. Now, to that point, you ended up with Jesse Marsch taking the gig. How could they afford Jesse Marsch, you say? Considering all of the issues that we've had with Jesse Marsch, with Canada Soccer and Canada Soccer business, and we'll get into that on the backside of this. You end up with Jesse Marsch coming in with the financial issues that Canada Soccer has with their relationship with Canada Soccer business. First question to me was, how did you afford Jesse Marsch? Considering that your treatment, and I'll use that word, of the national programs had them lacking in friendlies heading into international competitions, so they really couldn't get their sea legs under them to get ready to compete. There were opportunities to piggyback off of U.S. friendlies, and in Canada, I mean, it's like Oman, Azerbaijan, they were here, you had the chance. But Canada Soccer has been in a world of hurt financially. Jesse Marsch comes in the door, and you sit there and you go, how did you afford Jesse Marsch? Well, I'll tell you. For those that follow college football, everything's got a sponsor. Field houses have family names attached to them. Basketball arenas in the SEC have family names attached. Sponsors, all these kinds of things. Everything's got a sponsor attached to it. This particular walkway leading into the arena brought to you by a local business here. What Canada Soccer did to get Jesse Marsch, and it's in the release from Canada Soccer. Here are the 2 paragraphs. The appointment of Marsh is assisted by major philanthropic contributions from the owners of the 3 Canadian-based MLS clubs. Vancouver Whitecaps, Joey Saputo. Notice they don't say Montreal, CF Montreal. They say Joey Saputo. Vancouver Whitecaps, Joey Saputo, and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and supplemented by other private donors. In recognition of their significant philanthropic support, Marsh's position will be formally titled as the MLS Canada men's national team head coach during the term of his initial contract. So from now until the World Cup in 2026 leaves us, Jesse Marsh will be known as the MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Seriously. And I imagine that that is what his identifier, the lower third as we call it in television, the lower third graphic is going to say, or going to be requested / demanded to say in all of the releases from Canada Soccer. Please identify Jesse Marsh as MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Next sentence. This type of donor recognition is common at universities and hospitals in NCAA sports and is starting to be used in the Canadian sports system, for example, with the Stollery family women's national team head coach support at Golf Canada. Paragraph. These commitments are part of a forthcoming major gifts program that will provide Canadian philanthropists with a structured opportunity to support Canada soccer programs of all types, including the men's and women's national team systems from youth teams up through the senior national teams. So Jesse Marsh, his position is a corporate sponsorship. And Alex, you're not wrong. And viewers like you, thank you. Believe me, I've read that track. So Canada Soccer, because of their current financial state, because of the lack of sponsor dollars that are being funneled in and the lack of basic day-to-day operations, especially, we talked about how things are on the women's side. So what Canada Soccer did is they farmed out the national men's head coach to a corporate sponsorship. And what that also does is that puts that money off to the side. It does not go into the general pot to help out Canada Soccer in any way. It is specifically there to pay for the salary of Jesse Marsh and I imagine his assistants. That's what Canada Soccer did to bring in Jesse Marsh. Like I said, no word on assistants. Kevin Blue in the release did say that they were going to be naming the assistants in short order in the near future, coming weeks, however it was phrased. But what you've got with Canada Soccer is a corporate sponsorship to bring in a guy like Jesse Marsh, because the way that they are currently structured financially, the capital would not exist to bring in a Jesse Marsh / staff to be that kind of a guy to help out Canada Soccer. That is where Canada Soccer is right now. They went, you can look at this one of two ways. You can say that Canada Soccer went outside the box to bring in a guy like Jesse Marsh, his staff, ... Or they found a way around the relationship that they currently have with their sponsors and Canada Soccer business to bring in Jesse Marsh. You can look at it as probably a combination of both. But you can look at it as, depending on how you view your glass, and this is fairly full or slightly empty. You can look at it one of two ways. They went around, they did a workaround with their relationship with Canada Soccer business to bring in Jesse Marsh, staff, or they're thinking outside the box to bring in Jesse Marsh, staff. And Bart says it's an endowed professorship. I just have this vision now of John Houseman from The Paper Chase. Mr. Davies, do you firmly believe that that is the correct answer? Is that the way you wish to have your paper constructed? That's your Google search for today, kids. The Paper Chase. But yeah, it's like, behind a desk, 4 whiteboards that you can move one way or the other, long wooden pointer, bang, you smash the whiteboard that you're paying attention to, it's like psh, to make your point in the classroom. You shift your whiteboards around to where you are in the lecture. Yeah. Yes. And Alex, see, now I need to dump a rim shot. I'm going to let the Twitch pitch just read Alex's response. Alex does get full points for it, nevertheless. But I'm going to I need a rim shot. See, Alex, if anybody's going to drop a zinger in from now on, give me some notice. So today, after the show is over, I can download a rim shot and have it ready for a one-liner like that. Because if I just go ahead and toss to the one-liner and I don't have the appropriate, but then I'm missing out on it. But Alex is definitely a +1 for that one-liner off of Bart's endowed professorship. So, yeah, Jesse Marsh is the man. Like I said, we don't know what the future of Mauro Biello and his assistants are right now. And we're supposed to be finding out in short order. So that was the first soundbite from Jesse Marsh about what he's viewing for being the continued kings of CONCACAF. But what about the near future? Here's once again Jesse Marsh and our friends at One Soccer.
Before we made the announcement, we had a group call with all of the players just to get a chance to say hello and let them know that I'll be their new coach. And a big part of the work for me in the next 2 to 3 weeks will be having individual conversations, getting to know players, even traveling to meet with players personally to get their input on where they think the team is at, what's been good, how they think we need to move forward. And that's my way, is I really try to invest in people and bring out the best in them. And I feel if you can do that and create a real connection from a personal perspective, that actually coaching becomes the easy part. So clearly I'll have to have a very strategic way of implementing exactly what we need and starting with the most important principles and make sure that they are clear and that understood so that the players can execute that. And then, like you said, playing Argentina in the first match of Copa America is a big challenge, but a massive opportunity. And so that's I think how we will treat it. We will want to play brave. We will want to go after them. We will want to still try to stay true to the things that we want to be good at. And this will be the case no matter who we're playing. And the key will be to make our identity clear and ingrained in every game, every training session, every time we're together. How clear can we make the way that we want to play?
And it's going to be interesting when Jesse Marsh and the Canadian men's national team make their way here to get ready for Copa. You have those two friendlies leading into the activity for Copa. But Jesse Marsh said something in that soundbite that once again raised the people's eyebrow for me. So Jesse Marsh is looking to travel to meet players in person. Who's paying for that? Is that a part of the sponsorship deal from MLS Canada teams? Man, MLS Canada, what is it again? The MLS Canada men's national team head coach. It's going to take a while. MLS Canada men's national team head coach. MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Man, that's a lot. Well, welcome to corporate sponsorship, John. MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Did I get that right? Did I not? MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Okay, so I did get it right. So this is how it's going to look every single time Jesse Marsh is going to sit there and stare at it. MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Dell, I don't know. Dell wants to know if it can fit on a business card. I imagine it can. If you had like Jesse Marsh and MLS Canada men's national team head coach, I would imagine that it does down at the bottom. I don't think you can put anything else. I mean, you're probably going to have to do like a QR code and business numbers like on the opposite side. Maybe Jesse has a picture or something. It's like this way. It's like the Canada Soccer logo, a photo of Jesse Marsh on the front, and then it says Jesse Marsh, men's Canada, MLS Canada men's national team head coach. That's on the front. That's all you got space for. On the back is the QR code and the contact info. It's going to have to go double-sided. Who pays for those? But Jesse Marsh says he wants to travel, and he wants to meet players in person. Who's paying for it? Who's paying for it? And remember, back in late January, Canada Soccer Business pulled the TV rights back away from MediaPro because they were yelling at each other. Rick Westhead, a couple months ago, just to remind people of this, the success of the national team could compound Canada Soccer's financial woes. So by doing well, you could be doing worse economically. Canada advanced to the Copa, and this was before the Trinidad and Tobago match. So if they advanced to the Copa, which they did, Westhead said this: in a bizarre twist linked to Canada Soccer's media and sponsorship contract, it's possible that the better Canada performs in the Copa, the more it could accelerate the Federation's path toward insolvency. Thanks to an agreement reached between the union representing the men's national team players and the Federation a year ago, each of the 23 players on the team is paid a $9,000 bonus for each win, a source familiar with the matter told TSN. I probably should track down Westhead before the Copa. That means if Canada beat Trinidad and Tobago, and they did, if Canada beats Trinidad and Tobago and goes on to win 2 games in the Copa, it will cost Canada Soccer more than $600,000 in player bonuses, in addition to at least $500,000 in expenses related to travel costs and staging a pre-tournament camp for players and coaches. Prize money for this year's Copa has not been announced by CONMEBOL, which governs soccer in South America. Argentina took home $6.5 million for winning the last Copa in 2021. Second place Brazil got $3.5 million. Teams that made the quarterfinals that year were paid $1.5 million, while countries that did not advance out of the group stage did not receive bonuses. New Canada Soccer General Secretary, remember this is a couple months old, Canada Soccer General Secretary Kevin Blue, whose first day on the job was last Thursday, is joining an organization that is navigating unprecedented financial and political crises. TSN reported February 21st that a union representing players on Canada's senior women's national team have filed a $40 million lawsuit against 15 current and former board members, including current board chair Charmaine Crooks. According to an agreement Canada Soccer reached last year with women's national team players, the Federation pays them $1 million a year. It's up to the players to decide how to split up the money. The Canada Soccer Players Association alleges Crooks and other board members were negligent and breached their fiduciary duty to Canada Soccer in 2018 when they signed a media and sponsorship contract with the private company Canadian Soccer Business, which is controlled by owners of Canadian Premier League teams. In exchange for the flat annual fee of between $3 and $4 million, the National Federation signed over all of its media and sponsorship rights to CSB potentially through 2037. Like 13 years from now, 2037. Football Australia, by comparison, generated about 28 million Canadian in its sponsorship and TV revenue the year ending June 2023, and that was the end of the fiscal year. Despite repeated public assurances from a number of Canada Soccer officials over the past year that CSB had agreed to modernize, in quotes, their agreement. No tangible offers to retool the contract have been presented, the source told TSN. Quote, clearly there's some financial misalignments that need to be addressed, Blue said in an interview with TSN. Financial misalignments. I got to remember that one. The aspiration is that I have is for us as a soccer community in Canada is to build a more robust commercial and philanthropic structure for the sport and to up-level, it's another corporate buzzword I'll have to remember, the aspiration and the conversation beyond the singular issue of the CSB partnership. Build a more robust commercial and philanthropic structure for the sport. Remember, Alex, and viewers like you, thank you. Blue said he understands how important it will be to rebuild the trust with the public and with players on both national teams. He said he's already sent a note to players to introduce himself. This is like when he was initially hired. Hi, I'm Kevin. Name tag right there. Blue said he's met with CSB officials to talk about the controversial contract. Quote, they have expressed agreement in helping and being a part of the solution to improve the broader commercial and philanthropic landscape for the sport in Canada, which is why I guess you heard nothing from CSB or have heard nothing yet about the imagination that was used in the corporate sponsorship of Jesse Marsh and his new job title. You heard no squawk back from CSB about that. Canada Soccer officials over the past year have asked CSB to sign new sponsorship deals in the airline, hotel, and logistics sector and commit the funds from those agreements to junior and senior national team programming. CSB has countered by suggesting it pursue a sponsor deal in the gambling sector, with some of the proceeds from a contract going to Canada Soccer. Gee, an international program tied to the gambling sector. That couldn't go wrong, comma, he said. CSB spokesperson Laura Armstrong wrote a statement to Westhead. Like I said, when Rick Westhead's writing a story at TSN or reporting it live on the TV site, he's one of the last guys you want. Former Canada Soccer Interim General Secretary Jason DeVos told TSN back almost a year ago that the Federation was investigating how bankruptcy protection works because its finances were so troubling. While he subsequently said the Federation was not actively considering a bankruptcy filing, Canada Soccer remains on a course for financial catastrophe, the source told TSN. Even with public funding, the federal government provided the Federation with $5 million in 2022. Canada Soccer is burning through its cash reserves. Federation reported a $4 million deficit in 2022, according to Canada Soccer's financial statements. Source to Westhead told TSN the Federation recorded a deficit of more than $3 million in 2023, and that it projects a budget deficit of $4 million this year. 2023 financial statements won't be made public until the annual general meeting this month. Source told Westhead, we're talking about an organization on pace to burn through more than $10 million in cash reserves in 3 years. That's unsustainable. Canada Soccer has never been in a financial crisis like the one it's in right now. Canada Soccer executives have privately acknowledged the stakes in recent meetings with provincial and territorial soccer federations in December of last year. Federation officials floated the idea of increasing the annual fee for player registrations from $9 to $15. That 60% increase was necessary to help avoid a bankruptcy filing within the next year, the provincial and territorial organizations were told, according to the source. Provincial and territorial feds expected to vote on the request in May at the 2024 AGM. Federation execs in recent months have also discussed requiring professional teams in the CPL and MLS and leagues in Canada to boost their annual registration fees by 60% to match prospective player fee increases. Currently, each MLS team pays Canada Soccer $30,000. Each CPL club pays $20,000. The executive director of one provincial soccer federation who did not have their organization's approval to speak publicly about the issue told TSN they'd vote against any request to increase player levies. That executive director told Westhead it's not the job of provinces to fix the mess that Canada Soccer has created. like we were talking about with international friendlies. Remember, men's national team only played one game during 2 international windows during the fall of 23. When Herdman was head coach, he spent some of his time fundraising, finding private donors to cover the costs of flights and games. While Federation staff secured friendly games for the men's team with the Netherlands, too, in late 2024 with the U.S. and Mexico. That happened because the Dutch and U.S. soccer federations have agreed to cover most of the costs of those games, the Canada Soccer source told TSN. Women's U17 national team in February failed to qualify for their World Cup. Before their games, the Canadians did not have a proper training camp because the federation could not afford to stage one, according to a source. Similarly, men's U20 national team played in a CONCACAF tournament last month without a training camp. Quote, source to Westhead, we're running minimal national team programming with minimal staff, and we are still running a multi-million-dollar deficit. It's hard to see a solution here unless that CSB deal is done. The trouble is some of the people on our board are responsible for signing that deal, and the other ones don't have the guts to stand up and hold them accountable, end quote. So that's where Canada Soccer is right now. Canada Soccer hires Jesse Marsh, gets philanthropic donations or cost covering, however you want to phrase it, to bring in Jesse Marsh and his staff. That's cool that you're thinking that way, but you still have the larger problem of your day-to-day operations. And this gives off the look of, hey, look at our shiny object and look at what we're devoting to the cause, when you still have all of these other issues that need to be addressed. Just putting all of this out here, that your MLS Canada men's national team head coach, while a good hire, I would love to know how the Bills are going to get paid for what Jesse Marsh, I'm sure, A, has already said he wants to do, and B, what he's going to be able to do. And C, is that going to end up being two different things? And how successful will this relationship be unless you continue to get philanthropy? Like I said, that's the word that we'll use, philanthropy, to continue to pay bills outside the current construct of the deal that Canada Soccer has with Canada Soccer Business, which seems to be a boondoggle of the nth degree. So, cool that you got Jesse Marsh. Good on you, great. You're getting friendlies paid for by the Dutch and U.S. federations to help you further down the line. You're in the Copa, and if you win matches in the Copa, the bonuses could hurt you that much more to your players. Sorry, Del, boondoggle. Financial fiasco, something like that. You want to? If I could phrase it that way. I have spidey senses up. I have instantly more questions than answers. So that's kind of where I am with this. I'm, like I said, cool, great, yeah, but is probably how I'm looking at this. Considering what we just heard Jesse Marsh say about how he wants to become more acquainted, have face-to-face meetings once again. Fantastic that you want to do this kind of stuff to get everybody on the same page. But my first question is, how's it going to get paid for? Who's paying for it? Is this going to be continued part of the philanthropy to get all of the top-heavy elements done? Then how do you build from within? How do you build from within and continue to try and build that way? Bart, I would bet large amounts of money that the U.S. Soccer Fed and CanSoc will be partners for friendlies this fall. I'm surprised Canada Soccer hasn't worked with the USSF to schedule friendlies with teams here in North America, but that requires money to host them, I guess. Yeah. And what you might end up with, something akin to a single city doubleheader, back-to-back days, facility, something like that, different venues, where Canada Soccer is the home team in St. Louis for Canada and Oman at City Park, and then, or Washington University or the Edward Jones Dome or whatever, and then the U.S. plays, a fully funded, functioning friendly with insert team here with Azerbaijan at City Park, something like that. But no, I could see continued piggybacking, if that's a word. I could continue to see Canada Soccer sitting there and saying, "Hey, bud, hey, you got something going on? Can we come and hang out with you?" Keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this. Like I said, it's great that Canada Soccer wants to bring in a guy like Jesse Marsh with a sponsored title to make it happen. MLS Canada men's national team head coach Jesse Marsh, MLS Canada men's national team head coach. Guarantee you that is what Canada Soccer is going to request, demand of all of this stuff. Nick Alifi, good morning. I went down a rabbit hole. No surprise on a Tuesday.
All right, this is a microphone check. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good.
Yes.
All right. What was the rabbit hole, John?
Jesse Marsh has been hired by Team Canada, by Canada Soccer, as their dude.
Yeah.
Good hire. But because of bringing in Jesse Marsh, obviously the way that Canada Soccer economically is currently fighting battles where they're having problems making ends meet and their sponsorship deals are ish because of a contract that was signed with a corporate entity that only gives them a flat fee in between now and possibly 2037. Canada Soccer had to be a little imaginative to bring in Jesse Marsh. The 3 MLS franchises basically sponsor Jesse Marsh. His title is now Jesse Marsh, MLS Canada men's national team head coach.
Okay. All right. Unique, sure.
Unique. When you have financial problems with your day-to-day operations, and you want to bring in a dude,
yes,
and probably his staff, you've got to think outside the box a little bit. And I was saying that in college athletics, you have buildings that are sponsored by families, and apparently there are other Canadian national teams and other sports that have family sponsorships and things like that. But
sure, yeah.
What Canada Soccer has done is they have farmed out a sponsorship to the MLS teams in the country to where they get to be at the front of the name ID on the lower third for Jesse Marsh, to have him referred to as MLS Canada men's national team head coach, Jesse Marsh.
Okay.
And I went through all of the problems that Canada Soccer is currently facing, financial and otherwise, scheduling friendlies, these kinds of things.
Right.
U20 not having a training camp, women's before they get into a tournament, these kinds of things. And so you've got, I don't know what other devotion of resources are going to be from the 3 MLS sides, or are they just subsidizing Marsh and his staff? I don't know if they're subsidizing anything else to help the men's national team function or Soccer Canada function. Right now, it's just part of the nameplate that Jesse Marsh has, that philanthropically, we're going to help you out to bring in Jesse Marsh to help out Canada Soccer. Like I said, we don't know anything else that's going on, But we've now hit this stage with Canada Soccer where they're corporate sponsoring the new head coach for Canada Soccer on the men's side.
Yeah, it's gonna be like NASCAR, I guess.
Yeah.
And Jesse Marsh after a win will be like, just want to give a shout out to the the Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal men's national team did a fantastic job today, especially around turn 2. I mean, like, yeah. So
yes.
we're gonna have that. Yeah. Del Schaefer asks, Nick, are you Team Marsh or Team Greg 3GB? I am Team Marsh. Greg Berhalter infuriates me because he's essentially a walking set of pleated khakis. And I'm not a U.S. men's national team fan anyway. I'm just really, really glad I'm not. If I were a U.S. men's national team fan and Greg Berhalter was my manager, I would be enraged on a daily basis. I would probably have to try to find other outlets for my rage and anger. I think that I think that Marsh is a perfect hire for Canada.
Yeah.
So for those who are maybe newer to the soccer space and wondering why this is a good hire. All right, think about your service academies in college football, right? Army, Navy, Air Force. I think Air Force is sort of transitioning to more of a pistol, but Navy and Army run the triple option, right?
Yeah.
And why do they do that? Because it gives them an advantage. They can do more with less.
Right.
Right. So you're not going to have, massive, 300-pound linemen blocking for you. So you have to scheme for blocking. You have to scheme to move the ball down the field and keep the other team off balance. Canada's in a very similar boat, that their player pool is not nearly as robust as America's. And as a result, they have to it would benefit them to play a more more of a style that allows them to be competitive with lesser talent. Now, I'm not saying that Canada has zero talent across the board. That's not what I'm saying at all, but depth of talent matters. And so you want your third string option to at least be functional.
Right.
And if they, for some reason, they have to start, for whatever the reason is, schedule compression, injuries, whatever, you can do that with the Red Bull system. You can come in and have a team that is underperforming from a skill perspective, and as long as they are willing to work and run, they are competitive. And that is where this system thrives. So I know that there are folks who wanted Marsh for the U.S. men's national team job. I get that, but U.S. soccer has hitched itself to this kind of buffoonery and of 3GB, and they're that's fine, go for it. And Greg's tenure has been middling and frustrating at times, but I mean, he has some key wins. So U.S. soccer's judgment is, according to them, is completely justified. All right, have fun with it. But in the end, I want to see how this is going to work, like in January.
Yeah.
Like when you are busting your ass in like -3 degrees and your lungs feel like they're going to, like go Chernobyl.
Yeah.
I want to see how that works. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I want to see what kind of leeway they give Marsh or how much power they give Marsh.
Right.
So, if Marsh says, yeah, we're not playing up in Saskatchewan, we're going to be like, we'll play in Vancouver.
Yeah. It's like, we're going to have the curtains on at BC Place. We're going to play there. We're going we're going to play, we're going to play in Toronto. We're going to play in all of the southern environments that we can.
Right. And, again, I think that this is a great system for Canada. And, Bart, this system has worked internationally. It worked for, we're going to go back in time here, back to the Soviet Union. When later on, when Ukraine had their own national team, it worked then as well. So that's really where, that's where the system took off before it was co-opted by Rangnick and all of his acolytes. So it's a system that really got its footing in the Soviet style, like the Soviet Union, Ukraine, Eastern Europe. They were, I know, I'm 43, Del. I'm 43. I remember the Soviet Union. And
he remembers Nikolai Volkov singing the anthem. He knows that.
Right. Yeah. So it's the problem. This also exposes the problem within the system, right? The fact that it does go back so far is that you have to have a team that is completely dedicated to working, right?
Yeah.
You cannot have anyone who's not pulling their weight. If you have a 6 who is not closing down as quickly as they should, the hexagon that they're trying to form, this sort of hexagon wolf pack that will track, to try to corner the ball and to try to corner the action into one small section that they can then, issue a coordinated attack. If that 6 is not there, it provides the gap and the press can break. So it is there are problems with it. I don't want to say that there's, but the Soviets, Bart says, I can't imagine what the Soviets had that made the system work so well.
Peer pressure and intimidation.
Yeah. Probably industrial grade steroids and tremendous esprit de corps.
Yes.
So, that was one of the primary things is that the Soviets had all their players were military, right?
Whether they liked it or not.
So they had players, but they needed to compete in a way that, would still be problematic for the Brazilians, the Italians, the English, the way these European teams that had a certain identity. And the Brazilians, of course, the Brazilians and Argentine squads, they had their own unique things. And beautiful football of Brazil at the time was extraordinarily difficult to defend, especially because you had like the Mount Rushmore times 12 of talent.
Yes.
And so what the Soviet bloc discovered was that we can outwork them. Because these guys are military, we can dedicate 100% of their training to being physically fit. So, you had I'm cracking up here at Alex's comment. Esprit de corps, is that French for threat of banishment to Siberia?
Why, yes, it is.
Well, look, I know there was a period of time when people were actually proud to play for the Soviet Union. Right. They actually believed that they were doing something great. And so what you had was a very, very physical press that was implemented and was very successful up until the 90s. And then as the Soviet bloc broke apart, a lot of these teams kept trying to play this way. But because of capitalism, you had distractions, right? You had music and entertainment and things of that weren't necessarily prevalent in the Soviet Union at the time. And so, that culture broke down. And so the people who were trying to implement this system lamented the fact that the newer kids, the kids who grew up in post-communism, didn't have the same sort of esprit de corps. They didn't have the same sort of work ethic that they had back in the communist days. Not saying that communism was better, but it was just different. And when you had these teams, especially playing in like East Germany, that's where Rangnick saw what was happening, right? Rangnick saw when some of these teams would travel, he saw, it looked like that the Ukrainian team had like extra men on the field. They were like, how the crap are they getting this ball back so quickly and in such dangerous areas? And Rangnick and his then girlfriend really broke it down on how the system was working. And then they applied mathematical modeling to it as well, in true German fashion. Mm-hmm. And then you had gegenpressing, right? So with gegenpressing, you had a way that you could have teams that had no money, little talent, be extra competitive, and it took off, right? So that's how you were able to get Jurgen Klopp getting a Division III team all the way up, promoted to the Bundesliga.
Right.
So, once it was proven to work, it took off. And so it wasn't just limited to, European influence. You had Americans like Jesse Marsh who completely bought into this system. And if you hear him talk about any of this, he is a believer. I mean, like a friggin' priest visiting the Vatican. I mean, he is that dialed in to this system and how it works. The challenge is it's a culture. And I have to stress this, just like Ajax, and why the Ajax system does not translate to a lot of these other teams, because it's a culture. The tactics work, but it takes a culture to implement the tactics. That's why you have these Ajax coaches who leave Ajax, the safety, the security of Ajax, and go to these other squads, and they're expecting, yes, basic logic, the tactics will work, and everyone's going to buy in. And then people don't buy in, and then the system fails, and then these coaches look like they're idiots, right? But they go back to Ajax, and it works. What's the issue here? The issue is culture.
Yeah.
It's the same with gegenpressing. It takes a culture to implement it. And if you can't build the culture, the system's not going to work, because everyone has to bust their ass equally. And if you have one or two people who are not willing to put in the work to get physically fit enough to run it, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So Marsh is going to have to get into the room, and he's going to have the same conversations that Frank de Boer had, and that Frank had talked about previously, which is there's three groups in a locker room. Okay. The first one is those who are completely bought into change. They're 100% bought in. I love this. Let's make it happen. You have those who are completely against the change. This is not going to work. It's stupid. I don't want to do it. I don't want to work in this under the sky. The hell with this. And then you have the most valuable, necessary group, and that's the group who are uncertain. And that's who the manager has to win over. And if you fail to win over that third group, you're out. It's not going to work. So Jesse Marsh has to win over this third group when he walks in that says, okay, I know you guys are getting screwed with money. I know you guys are under, you're looking at what Canada Hockey's getting. You're seeing all how this money's being splashed over here, and you're getting none of this. And we've had issues with kits, whatever. To hell with Canada. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on our locker room and how we fight for each other.
Yeah.
And then maybe these asshats will see that we have the opportunity to do something special if we're just supported, but we have to galvanize the locker room first. And if he gets buy-in, Canada's going to be extraordinarily dangerous.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, It will be dangerous for about 3 to 6 months, and then it's going to fall apart.
Yeah. All right. Hold that thought. We have a special visitor,
Penny.
Sheldon.
and you know what that means.
Penny.
Sheldon.
Wait, what?
We have a special guest,
Okay, who's our special guest?
the graduate.
Ah,
I will say it was very comforting to hear Nick curse as soon as I came into the thing. So that was very comforting to hear. It's nice to know that everything is balanced and everything's back in the world.
there we go.
So yeah, we take this with this palate cleanser and the interlude here.
I never thought I would be the palate cleanser.
Well, you're the one who's on graduation vacation. You graduated. You've posted photos on your social medias at Madison Cruise 7, by the way, of beach locales and no fruity drinks in any photos yet. But you've shown beach locales, and now you're back here where it's all foggy and cold.
Yeah, listen, trust me, there was fruity drinks. There was a lot of fruity drinks. But yeah, now I'm back to the world of the living, and yeah, working hard. Just dropped off my car to get tires done, and now I'm waiting for coffee. So
Yay.
There we go.
Yay!
listen, guys, I'm adulting. It's all good.
That's
so,
right.
So you're the one. Okay, you're the one on the show that's adulting. I see how this works.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm trying to adult.
Yeah.
Trying.
So
There's no point in adulting. Let me give everybody out there a spoiler alert. There's no point. Just do the bare minimum to keep things running.
Yeah.
And because that's all they're paying us to do anyway. And
Yes.
And that's it. Just let it run.
yes.
Very true.
Let's see. 4-card Bart, Dell, and Alex are sending all of their high and hearty handshakes to you. And Dell seconds the idea that there's no need to adult. It gets you nowhere.
I
That's
agree.
right.
I completely agree.
That's right.
Yeah, no, graduation was fun, and now we're back to it, and it's all great. It's always fun. I will say though, graduation, it was so weird. It was like really strange because we get there like 3 hours before it all starts, and
Yes,
then like
you
it's
do.
just like one moment, like I just like walk across it, and I'm like, okay, here we go, I'm done. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun getting to hang out with some friends, got to hang out with some family afterwards. And, yeah, now we're just, back at it, back from vacation. Wish I was at the beach a lot longer, but it's okay. We're back. I have stuff to do. So we had to come back.
Yep. Kefsey is saying, Kefsey is wondering if you are in fact saying hootie hoo.
I am in fact saying hootie hoo.
Okay.
Hootie hoo. I
There you
can't. I have my other phone in my hand, so I can't do the full,
Well then,
hootie.
then do like a half. Change your hand with the phone and do the other.
Exactly. 1, 2. There we go.
Okay. All right. So, do we even dare ask how your credit card is going to look once you have purchased these tires?
We're not going to talk about it.
Mhm.
We're not going to talk about it because, it's always fun stuff. Got to get them done before this weekend because I will be traveling up to Nashville
That is true.
I'll be traveling up there to, cover Atlanta United and to cover Atlanta United 2.
For the Atlanta United Equinox, the harmonic
Absolutely.
convergence of everything, where I start the day with the academy side, then it's you, Mike, and Jason in various forms in Nashville, the unified match, and then down to Huntsville for Hunt City and Atlanta United 2. So
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day. It's a fun day of us traveling in my car and trying to make it 2 places on time.
yes, that is definitely true. So we've got to make sure that you've got enough money to pay for your dog food and things like that. So we got to work
Well,
on it.
Technically, they're not my dogs. They are my parents' dogs. But
Yeah.
I do want a dog.
Yes.
Now that I'm graduated, I'm an adult. That's my next purchase.
Okay, well, it's not a purchase. It's part. It is a family edition. It is not a purchase. It is not to be.
See, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Dell's going to be in Nashville. So everybody that's going to make their trip to Nashville as we go, as everybody's finalizing their plans, just make sure that you coordinate with Maddie and get to see everybody at Geodis. The biggest thing for Geodis: parking. You have to get parking.
Yeah.
Parking. That is mandatory, because if you ain't parking anywhere close, you've got like a walk of like 9 area codes, and it's not fun. So
I'm gonna use the excuse that I need parking because I am Jason's chauffeur for the day.
no.
That is my excuse.
You're
That is
You're-
true.
you're working
Assistant slash.
you're working for SDH. It just so happens that it's going to be in your automobile.
That is very true. That is very true. But listen, hey, that's an excuse for me
No,
to get
no, Maddie. Do not listen to John Nelson. Do not say that you are an assistant. Okay, don't listen to John on this. I love John dearly. Okay,
You're a contributor at SDH.
No. You are the logistics manager.
Okay.
Okay, the logistics. Don't you give yourself a minimum wage title, Maddie. This is adult lesson number 1. When somebody says I'm an executive assistant, no. You are the logistics manager. Okay, that is a much higher income bracket than assistant. So you are now the logistics manager of SDH. That is why you are managing transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that you must have parking, because as a logistics manager, you are responsible for ensuring that mission critical equipment and personnel are delivered on time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I like the title.
Okay.
I like the title.
All right. Well, keep us posted on your tires, and
I will.
And let me know. Let us know what's going on, and obviously, so when you coming back to the show now that you're back from vacation?
Actually, I think tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow, if you'll have me.
Oh, whatever. I've had more people ask about you and when you're returning than me in my presence. So Tyler at 9:15, Dylan Butler possibly at 10 o'clock, and then there might be some guy named Longshore at 10:30.
I don't know who that is. That's a new name. I don't
Yeah, well, it'll be a show debut for him. So go look at your tires and make sure that they don't mess up anything else on the car.
And Costco, Matt, Costco. You need to get a Costco membership.
I'm already planning it. I really need one.
Yeah, because that's where you're going to save the monies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, go look at your car.
All right, bye everyone. I'll be back tomorrow.
There you go. There's Maddie. All right, so
the name, by the way, of the person who was really the godfather of the press was Valery Lobanovsky, right? So Lobanovsky's a guy who, if you read the book Inverting the Pyramid, they lead right to Lobanovsky and then Rangnick and sort of the rise of the press. So yeah, I know that a lot of people wanted Marsh to take over the U.S. men's national team.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. The main issues, and I will keep banging the table on this. I love the press for that. And I love Navy football. I love the triple option. I am the firm believer in the gimmick, the gimmick offense.
Oh, no. It's not a gimmick. It is using the resources made available to you.
Correct. But to me, that's what and Jason and I have like yelled at each other about the benefits of the press. And, he's like, no, you got to raise them up in the possession based style. And I'm like, you can't do that if you don't have the personnel to start with. You've got to maximize the attributes. If you got runners, make them run. And the challenge, though, is that you have the last 15 minutes of the half and the end of the game.
Yep.
You will have significant gaps in your press.
Correct.
If another team says, okay, clown boys, here's the ball. Go do something with it. You don't have creative enough players to do anything because you're relying on the other team to make mistakes outside of it, like trying to play out of the back, and you just jump on them, right? So the main challenge is going to be, what do you do when they give you the ball? When are you losing? What do you do whenever that last 15 minutes comes up and your guys are winded, right?
Okay.
How do you survive?
All right. Well, then here's your roster plus call-ups. So let me run through the forwards in the midfield and see if we're not talking square peg round hole here.
Mm-hmm.
Forwards that have either caps or been called up in the last 12 months. Kyle Larin, Jonathan David, Tejan Buchanan, Liam Miller, Ike Ugbo, Schaffelberg, Russell Rowe, Theo Bear, Cavallini, Charles Andreas Bream, and Jaden Nelson. Those are your forwards. Midfield, Victor Laturi from Ross County, David Wotherspoon, Dundee, Harry Payton, Motherwell, Mark Anthony Kay, Junior Hoylett, who's 33, Jonathan Osorio, who's 31. Midfield, Piet, Eustachio, Ismail Kone, Chouanier, and Liam Frazier. Do any of those guys scream, I'm going to run my ass off for 90-plus minutes to you? Well, I guess the question should be, you better adapt to running your ass off for 90-plus minutes.
Right. No, here's the thing is that Marsh will not call. He'll call everyone up and give them a shot. And if they're not fitting the bill from a running perspective, he will not call them up again. He won't, because he believes in the culture more than specific players coming in to facilitate. This person's been here, has been a part of the national team for 6 years. They're a mainstay. We have to have them. Nope, he's not going to do that. It's going to be, all right, I've got this 18-year-old kid out of Vancouver who's ready to run, and they can handle that. Well, and Alex asked, how do you press as a team to that level when you only have these guys for short spells? This is where his title as MLS,
MLS soccer men's national team head coach.
Yeah. Kotex Tampax Valvoline player coach of the year comes in, is that he has to, he's going to be talking to these teams, the Canadian teams, and say, look, I will largely call from your academies. I will largely call on your players, which will raise your guys' profile. But I need you guys to, have a bit of, you got to make these guys run. You got to make them play. And he's going to have to make hard decisions on players who aren't willing to play this way. And there will be players who won't. There'll be players who will walk, talk the talk in the beginning. They will not walk the walk come call up time. His influence is going to be limited. And Jesse Marsh, he's going to ask these teams to probably play a bit more of a pressing style. Sartini's not going to do it. I don't think, okay, great. Yeah. Good for you. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to have the same size player pool. You just have to have players who are willing. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you have 36 players, within your player pool who are capable of running, those are going to be the people who are going to get looked at. You don't have to have 70, 80, 100, if you have 36, to 28 players who are, able to and willing to put in the work, those would be the people who get looked at.
Yep. Your defenders, Alfonso Davies, Kamal Miller, Alistair Johnson, Derek Cornelius, Moise Bombito, Joel Waterman, Luc de Fougerolles, Richie Larea, Stephen Vittoria. You mentioned our buddy Evani Sartini, who's got to Sam Adekubi and Ali Ahmed, Scott Kennedy, ZBG, Zach McGraw, and Dominic Zader. They've all been called up in the last 12 months.
Yeah, and from what Alex is saying is, I wish him well. That's a tough system to implement only periodically. It is. A lot of it's going to be on the players. The players who know they're in the national team pool are going to have conversations with Marsh, and he's going to say, if your team plays like a possession-based style and, you're used to running in a 15-yard circle, you will have to train on your own to get ready for this. It's a culture. That's what I keep saying, Alex. It's a culture. It's not one of those systems where you just come in and, okay, yeah, I move here, I move there. In this situation, I'm executing in this particular way. I stay home here when this person moves forward. It really is, it's like Marine Corps boot camp. I mean, you're either all in or you're getting washed out.
Right.
So there will be players who are named players who are going to get pushed to the side. this may work well, this may not. It will look really good in moments, and people can be like, "Oh man, good Lord, maybe the United States should have got Jesse Marsh. My God!" And then there will be moments where all of you men's national team fans will be like, oh, "Thank God we didn't do that," and it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just going to have to see. But this pretty much means that one major issue that I don't think people are really discussing at the moment is that he will be there, barring some kind of insane meltdown. He will be there for 26, which means that if Greg Berhalter fails, at an absurd level and he gets kicked out, who are you going to? Because Marsh was your automatic guaranteed backup that you could come and implement this system in a very short period of time. Because a lot of the kids who come from Germany, I say kids, a lot of the men who come from Germany or played in Germany would understand exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's off the table now, right? So if you are, all of your eggs are now in the 3GB basket. So good luck. I don't know what the hell you're going to do, but.
And you have, let's see, 30 days says September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. You've got 23 days before you're friendly against the Netherlands in Rotterdam. And then you've got a friendly against France on the 9th of June before you come back to this side of the planet. And then you end up at I imagine, the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, getting ready for the matchup against Argentina on June 20 before you go and play Peru and Chile in your group stage for Copa America. So you ain't got a whole lot of time to get things squared away here. At least come up with some loose construct of what you want to do very, very quickly. I mean, it's
the biggest issue with Marsh's system is timing. You have 8 seconds to win the ball back, 10 seconds to put a shot on frame.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched Ralph Rangnick's training sessions, they have an actual clock that makes, that ticks every second audibly. So the players know 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. They get the ball. Okay, now I got to go back. 1 and 2 and 3. And it gets the timing down in your head. So okay, we're pressing like hell for this period of time. And then, okay, we've recovered vertical and incisive passing, right? So it's either like straight ahead or it's at like a 45-degree angle. You're not getting anything horizontal, anything backwards. That is failure. Horizontal and backwards is failure in transitional play because it allows the other team to recompact, right? Recompress and to block the channels that you would exploit when you recover the ball. That will be the biggest issue that Marsh has to deal with right out of the gate. Because it's one thing to say, okay, if I point to you, John, and say, okay, I need you to count to 8. But then I say, okay, Alex, you count to 8. You guys may count to 8 at different rates, right?
Yes.
So if I have my 9 is pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then my 10 is going 1 and 2 and 3. You're pressing at different rates, and your close down rate is going to be very different. So when you think about it, if everybody's meeting their marks at the same time, what are your passing options? If you're trying to pass out of the back and the opposition is meeting all of your passing options at the same time, what is your passing option? Hoof it.
Yeah.
So you hoof it, and what'll happen is for the pressing team's back line is at the half at the half line. Okay, so their back 4 is at the half line, and they're waiting for that hoofed ball to come in, and then they get it and they cycle it forward quickly. Or you can, in certain situations, if the manager identifies a weak spot on the back line, a good defender but a poor passer, what he'll say is, so Marshall say, hey, look, they're right back is terrible with the ball at his feet. Do not press him.
Yeah.
Press everyone else to kingdom come. Don't press him. And what we want is for this guy to get the ball. Then we press him.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to do is that delayed press means that he's either going to knock the ball out of bounds, we recover, okay? Or when we press him, he loses possession and we're right there right near the 18. So we have that immediate turnover and that immediate shot on goal. So it's sort of a Jedi mind trick.
Okay.
Right? These are the things that Marsh is going to be implementing right away. And he's going to try to have these conversations with right away. But timing will be the biggest issue he has to face. If his players do not meet their pressing marks at the same time, you're going to have gaps in the press. If they don't run through the press, like if they stop 2 yards shy, a half yard shy, it's going to leave a lane open because the press doesn't have the same sort of ferociousness if you pull back as opposed to running through. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they're able to get done before Rotterdam.
Yeah. Bart, as a part of our discussion here, and like I said, and I think that we've made, no secret that I don't think there are a lot of us around here that are 2-cycle guys or more than 1-cycle guys. And so now that Berhalter is on another cycle, Bart never wanted Marsh, so this is totally fine for him. If 3GB fails, we do need to look beyond an MLS coach and find someone who has international coaching experience.
The U.S. is one of the few countries where I think an international coach would work wonders. And I am a big believer in 1 cycle.
Yeah.
A huge believer. Because after 2006, when Italy won the World Cup, we said, okay, we're running it back, baby. And it's been a disaster up until the most recent Euros.
Yeah.
I think the U.S., because we are such a cultural melting pot,
yeah,
I think that we don't necessarily put the same level of faith and trust in American coaches as we do European coaches. And I know a bunch of people are probably out there rolling their eyes going, well, of course, but I think that if 3GB fails, which over a timeline it's inevitable, which direction are you going in? And because I think you should go with South American coach. It's probably the style that most matches up with what we try to do and what's culturally America. America is freaking fast, right? Everything moves quickly in America. You need dynamism, you need speed, you need aggressiveness. That is what you need. That is American culture. And you have to have a manager who fits that. I think a South American manager would do that. I don't think necessarily a lot of European managers would. You don't need to play pretty ball in America. You need to play something fast and aggressive that is Derek says Ricky Bobby. Yes.
Ain't first, you're last.
Yes. And so you need somebody who plays with badass American speed.
Yes.
And that's what you need.
Okay. I brought Bart in because of this being, I guess, something of a de facto Soccer for US POD discussion. And I thought, Bart, that it was necessary with the hiring of Jesse Marsh by the CanMNT to break the whole thing down and have us remember the backstory that's attached to bringing in a high-profile coach. From the news value of bringing in a Jesse Marsh, knowing what we know about Canada Soccer and CSB, what were your initial thoughts about bringing Jesse Marsh in to coach the CanMNT?
Well, I think it's good for Jesse, good for him, getting a job at the international level. I have always wanted to see how he and this system in particular would be able to work at the international level. I think that there have been examples of high pressing coaches who have been relatively successful at the international level. But good for Jesse. I think that his system is not a grave departure from what Herdman wanted to do. But at the same time, I'm glad he's not available for the U.S. national team. And I'm sorry, Del. I know you think that Greg Berhalter is the worst manager that's ever existed, but I don't think Jesse Marsch would be a good fit for the U.S. men's national team. And I'm very glad that he wasn't hired. Does that mean I want Greg Berhalter in this position? No, I think we should have done better. But I don't think Jesse is the guy to lead this U.S. men's national team. And one of those reasons is that I don't think that U.S. soccer wants to be this type of team. Because, I mean, Del, you can say he's the worst. You know, that's fine. You're allowed to have that opinion. It's factually incorrect, but you're allowed to have that opinion. But Jesse would not be a great hire for this team, right? He would not be a great hire for where the direction U.S. soccer wants to go. And he would not be a great hire for the player pool that we have. So he's better fit for Canada Soccer, a team that still has a bunch of hustle guys. But, you know, Jesse is the guy who says that Gio Reyna isn't as good as Brendan Aronson. And that's just laughable. I mean, seriously, it's laughable that you would have that opinion. But he prefers a Brendan Aronson type because Brendan Aronson will run until he dies. But he won't die because he can run forever and ever and ever. He's going. Whereas Gio Reyna is a little bit more selfish with his energy. And Jesse doesn't believe in that.
So, as Nick, as we have, tried to analyze what's going on here, I mean, I went through the folks that have been a part of call-ups over the last 12 months for the Canada men's national team. And Nick has made a point, Bart, to sit here and say, okay, I might be bringing dudes in that have been called up, but if you're not gonna, if you're not gonna tow the freight, then I don't care who you are name-wise, then you're not going to be around. And I think that it also presents an interesting bedfellow for CPL teams. It's like, how many of you are going to adapt to what Jesse Marsch wants to do? So I think that you've got the sum total of 3 weeks to get it figured out before Rotterdam. And then you've got another friendly in France before you wander over here, basically in your first match is like in 5 weeks at the Copa America. So, I mean, this is let me ask both of you this. Bart, let me start with you. What do you anticipate seeing out of Canada in the Copa? Not much? A mishmash? Is it going to be chaos? Bart, what are you anticipating? And then Nick, follow up.
Well, first off, I just need to say that to answer your question even further from before it plays into this, I promise, is
sure.
It is still funny to me. I'm glad it's happening because they needed help, but it's still funny to me that you needed the financial backing of the 3 MLS coaches in Canada to hire Jesse Marsch, who cannot be that expensive. I'm sorry. To build on that, I think it's even funnier that we don't even know the first time that Jesse Marsch will coach a team in front of a whole crowd. And that's sad. And that shows you the state of Canada soccer.
Yeah.
So that I don't know what to expect in that regard, because this man is going to have half of a training camp. If he's lucky, who knows if Canada soccer can put on a training camp. They're still going to have to get the players over there. So who knows? Because I think this is where, if I'm Jesse Marsch, I'm sure he was happy to get hired, but there have to be legitimate concerns, because as Nick laboriously laid out, this is not a just run everywhere type of system. Okay. And that's where I think people get this confused, is that the Red Bull style is not just run like a chicken with your head cut off. These are coordinated, drilled, and detailed pressing triggers. And then furthermore, what do you do once once you get control of that ball, right? This is not a system that, you deploy in your U12 rep team that just says go run and go try to win the ball back. And for Marsch, I have to be concerned about his ability to, maybe not ability, his capacity to be able to do that in such a short amount of time. Where, yeah, this team has played under Herdman, and I don't think it's too different, but there are differences in how they play.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm Jesse Marsh, I have to feel a little concerned that I won't have the time to really drill down the style and the system that I'm going to want from these players.
Nick, what do you think?
I think that I agree that with, it is hilarious that it took this much, work to get Marsh from a financial standpoint to get Marsh in. Marsh was hired at Leeds because from a stylistic standpoint, he was as close as you were going to get in a short period of time to El Loco's system.
Yeah.
Right. And so you needed somebody that brought, essentially chainsaw soccer to the forefront. And he was the guy who was best suited to do it at the time. You weren't going to get Ralph Rangnick in. Ralph Rangnick at the time was but the time when he was had he already moved to the advisory capacity for Man United?
Yeah, I think he was an advisor. Yeah.
But that's another thing to consider is that, and this is where I think this leads to where, this all leads to Rotterdam. What did Rangnick want to do? He wanted to identify the talent that needed to be kept and the talent that needed to leave Man United. He was not necessarily able to implement that as he wanted. Marsh is in lockstep with Rangnick from a thought process standpoint. He is going to look at the preparation for Rotterdam and say, okay, I'm having Zoom calls with my player pool. This is what I do. This is how I want things done. This is how we're executing. He's going to look to see who's paying attention. He's going to look to see who is already getting immersed in the culture. And then he's going to say, who are the people who are the outliers? And I think he's going to use Rotterdam as an opportunity to start weeding out people who aren't a part of the process. He's not concerned, I think, about a win or a loss against the Netherlands. I think he's more concerned about who's towing the line and who's not. And those people who are not towing the line,
Nick,
get them out.
Nick, that's to me the issue that, look, I'm sorry, Dell, you're getting picked on, but if you think that Greg Berhalter is so much about system and towing the line, I got news for you. Jesse Marsh is more about that because he will only choose players who fit in with what he wants to do. And that, if I'm a Canada fan, Nick, that has to concern me too, because now we're not looking at who's the best 11, but it's who can best run after the ball endlessly.
Well, it's who's the best. It is who is willing to execute exactly what I want done. And this is why I don't think a coach like Jogi Löw or Hansi Flick would be good for the U.S. either, is that they don't have the time or patience to coach up U.S. players on what they want to do. They don't. You have in Germany, the youth system is, of course, very, very different than what's done over here. The coaching, and it all starts from the level of coaching, right? The level of coaching for youth players is head and shoulders above what is happening here in the U.S. at scale. So they don't have the time or energy to make that sort of transition. Would it be great hires? Yes. But that's sort of like saying that, you want, Shohei Ohtani to go and play for the Oakland Athletics. It's just not, it's not happening. And with what Canada's doing right now, and I think this, to your point, Bart, I don't think Canada I think they're less concerned on names at the moment and more concerned about how the hell are we not, how can we get out of near bankruptcy and how can we be competitive and when we can barely even get new shirts on our backs.
That's what I'm wondering, Nick, is like how they're not even going to host a friendly in their own country.
No,
God knows when, and that's concerning.
Yeah, here's the rundown of the calendar, and I'm glad you brought that up because I had this marked. Rotterdam, June 6. Bordeaux, June 9. Then you're here for the Copa, which means at the very least, you're here on June 20. You're in Kansas City, June 25th. You're in Orlando on June 29. Your men's U20 play in late July in Mexico for the CONCACAF U20 tournament. Then your next scheduled men's event is late July, still as a part of the U20s. The women have some events. You have a September date against Mexico at Jerry World. Then the schedule goes dark currently. September 10 against Mexico at Jerry World. None of those dates that we mentioned are inside Canada country.
Just look at the U20s. Don't worry about the main class that's in there now. Look at the U20s. That's who Marsh is going to be concerned with.
Well, I got news for you, Nick. Canada U20s and their youth teams ain't been very good.
Right.
And that's that's where, if I'm the candidate, I think people said, oh, they got great talent coming up. Where? Because they haven't shown it at the U20 level. Now, I'm not saying you have to win tournaments, but they haven't qualified for World Cups. They're certainly not the Olympics, and they are struggling to make that at the group stage of these U20 competitions. So I'm with you. He's going to be evaluating that talent, but I don't know where the talent is there. It's getting better, but.
Here's the thing and Dell says it's a moot point now. We're stuck with 3G until the Copa fail. I'm okay with being picked on. We love you, Dell. You're not being picked on, baby. Don't worry. Look, love the conversation. Everyone has a different view, but we all want the USA to succeed in 2026. I'm not a fan of the acronym and the fighting acronyms, but I do want the fighting acronyms to do well in 2026. I think Greg is going to fail horribly at Copa. And when that happens, if U.S. men's soccer does not back the Brinks truck up, and Bart's going to disagree with me out of the jump, I get it. to get Brian Schmetzer, don't bother. Just say it's either Schmetzer or it's an international coach. It's one of the two. Because I don't think there's any Schmetzer's the only one who I think has the correct amount of tactical flexibility to be successful in the US or to be successful for the US and at the international level. And he's got the track record in MLS that Berhalter would have just dreamed of. I think I broke Dell's brain. I think, but look at Schmetzer and what he's done with Seattle, right? There are times when we had zombie Sounders. They looked like they were down and out and then came back and won the whole damn thing. Team never lost belief, right? But I think that can work for the U.S. men's national team. And he's done it without he's had DPs, of course, but I think that he also knows how to get the most out of his mid-level players. And that's really what you need at the international stage because your player options are limited. So you have to be able to get the most out of your secondary and tertiary talent. The top line talent's going to do what they do. They're the great ones. But you have to have the buttressing underneath to elevate your squad. And so I think Schmetzer is the one guy you back up the Brinks truck for American-wise. Outside of that, you're going international.
Well, I'll give you two names, though, that I think should be considered because they have American ties. And one is Pellegrino Matarazzo from Hoffenheim. He's American-born. I don't think he would consider himself necessarily American, but, American-born. And the other is David Wagner, who, I don't know if he necessarily plays the style that I'd love to see. But I think he's flexible enough to be able to put together a system that makes all the players that you're going to have for the U.S. men's national team better. I think those are names that are American enough. I mean, Wagner played for the men's national team, so hopefully that helps. But I'm with you. For me personally, it has to be an international coach because, yes, Jesse Marsch was the number 2. I think they clearly thought Berhalter was number 1. And then, who is the third best American coach? Maybe it's Schmetzer. Sure, maybe. I don't know. I would just say that you would want a coach that you feel is going to be able to bring you success in 2026. That's what this hire is going to have to do. That's what they. Granted, Berhalter hasn't been. We haven't even gotten to Copa America, so who knows? I think it's too early to have the conversation of an absolute that he's going to be gone. That said, if he doesn't make a semifinal, I think it's fair to. I think that's the pressure, right? Make a semifinal. You're at home. You better make a semifinal.
Yeah.
And as I've said on Soccer for Us a couple times, my hot take is I'd rather play Brazil than Colombia in that semifinal. But,
Yes.
I know that's a controversial take, but
no, Brazil is not the same Brazil. We sit there and we think Brazil. No, Brazil is a dumpster fire right now. That's almost insulting to dumpsters.
It's not great. So we'll see. Obviously we play both of them in June, but no, I mean, I think from this U.S. perspective, it is. There are a lot of reasons to be unsatisfied with what Greg Berhalter has given the fans and done with this team outside of some Nations League victories. Right? That is look. 3 straight CONCACAF Nations League is nothing to sneeze at, but at the end of the day, you're not beating great teams. And I think the best performance we've seen from this national team is probably the England game back in 2022, and you got to draw. I think that if you want to truly elevate the level of this program, you're going to need a manager with better experience than what Greg Berhalter had coming in. Now, that said, I think that's what Canada thought they were doing with Jesse Marsch. I mean, look, the guy has managed multiple clubs in Europe, which is better than John Herdman done. So,
yep.
Oh, and to Bart, to your point, and to Nick's underlying point, 12 of the 25 players who are either on the Canada U20 roster or who've been called up in the last 12 months have ties to MLS teams or MLS Next Pro franchises. There are an additional 3 of those 25 that are tied to CPL teams.
Well, and that's just the state of the Canadian men's soccer team right now. I mean, they're very much where the U.S. was in the late 90s, early 2000s. So they're going to have several players who are very good for their European teams, but most of their talent's going to come from the domestic league, and that's fine. Jesse should be able to take this team and find ways to help them win. I do think that if you're looking at a contrast between Marsch and Herdman, I don't think Marsch is going to deviate from his game plan 3 times in a row to not win a game in a World Cup. So.
Yeah. And try to draw attention to himself where he's plastered across Croat papers for saying things that he really shouldn't. But
I don't know. I think for me, John, this just goes back to this is a relatively good hire for Canada soccer, sure. But I think it is just concerning if I'm a fan of the Canadian program that Jesse Marsch is the big name, right? And in order to get the big name, who again, the salary can't be that high, because I don't think he was turned down from the U.S. job because of salary demands. So we're talking less than $2 million. And if you need your MLS coaches or MLS owners to pony up $1.5 million a year, that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, especially for those 3 very rich people to donate. And that's concerning to me.
But the principle of the idea of a sponsorship, a NASCAR-like sponsorship to bring in a Jesse Marsch to go around your current structure because it is in such poor financial shape is the state of things right now in Canada soccer. And that was kind of why I wanted to build this entire backstory and bring everybody up to speed about where things are with Canada soccer and CSB.
Well, let's talk about this one thing that hasn't been mentioned that not Berhalter, but that Marsch is going to really have to brush up on, and that's Cruton.
True.
And Cruton is not just players.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to need to go and become best friends with Joey Saputo. He's going to need to go and become best friends with the owners of Toronto
after the inaugural season of CF Impact Montreal turning into CF Montreal, and he leaves after that first year. Now he's got to buddy back up to it.
I'm just saying he really, really has to become friends with the people who are paying his bills because it twofold. One, they pay his money. Two, they are the ones who, if he gets in their ear and he has a good relationship and says, look, tweak your playing style to this because it's going to elevate Canada in the process. They are the ones who are going to be able to put downward pressure on the management of those clubs to say, look, switch it up and do this. They are the only ones who will be able to do it. Recruiting doesn't just mean going after players. You have to go after boosters. And in this case, the big three are his top primary boosters, and then CPL teams, those are going to be his secondary boosters. So he's going to have to go and be buddy with them as well. So,
and something that
Air Canada.
They're gonna, literally hosting a match because obviously we know it costs money to operate a stadium for a match day.
Yep. So
to your point, you got to go make friends with Joey Saputo to play there for a friendly. You got to go make friends with the TFC. What is it? Soccer MLSE. Yeah. You got to make friends with them. To find ways to play games in these stadiums at little to no cost.
That is, and that is an underlying hook in all of this. It's like I said, between now and September, you're on the road. Doesn't matter if you're U20 at the U20 CONCACAF tournament in Irapuato, Mexico, or if you're on the road for your national team. You do not have a home match through September on the books. You don't. DON''T don't.
Right, but again, I would not pay too much attention to the current first team of Canada. I think there's going to be a significant weeding out process. I would look at the U20s and how he elects to develop the U20s. And that's going to be because that's who's going to be playing largely for, and if Marsh is still there and still operational, he's going to have a very young roster for that 26 games. So I just throwing it out there. That's where I would focus a lot of my time and attention if I were covering Canadian soccer.
Find a way to get to Irapuato, Mexico in the summer, which is never a bad thing. Bart, thank you for coming in and answering the bat signal as a part of our deep dive this morning in the hiring of Jesse Marsh. What is the latest with Soccer for US POD?
We recorded an episode last night talking about the kind of depth of the U.S. men's national team player pool right now, and use that to build some rosters for Copa America for some productions. So that'll be going out Friday morning, probably to you.
Okay.
And so that's the latest.
Excellent. Well, as always, my friend, thank you for answering the bat signal, especially as we were doing a deep dive on something that was kind of in your bailiwick. So sorry to pull you out of the real world and bring you back into this one.
Yeah, that was a real shame, John. Hope to see some of y'all in Nashville. Yes. Hopefully we'll watch our team pull off the impossible.
Well, and then after that, you can watch the unified match and then drive down to Huntsville and watch the twos in Hunt City.
We will see, depending on how. By the way, go Cox or whatever they say on the other side of North London. I'm not familiar with that club's cheers, but depending on how that match goes today, I might be driving back Saturday night to be here in Atlanta with my Atlanta Gooners crew on Sunday morning. So we will see.
Yes. All right. Well, be safe, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon. Looking forward to the next Soccer for US POD later in the week.
Bye, y'all.
All right. That's Bart. And so, Nick, let me get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to watch, and then we can get out of here.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes for his normal visit at 9:15. If we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, in Dylan Butler, hopefully Dylan can join us at 10, and some guy named Longshore, I think, is going to be joining us. In addition to the teased return of Matty Cruz and the ones and twos. Vacation's over. You come back. Saudi Pro League clubs are interested in signing Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. Arsenal set to lose defender Ruel Walters, 19, after the England U20s international rejected the offer of a fresh contract to pursue opportunities elsewhere. Real Madrid still interested in signing Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool. Contract situation up in the air. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Reports of a major fallout between Kylian Mbappe and PSG President Nasser Al-Khelaifi before the Ligue 1 match with Toulouse have been dismissed by sources at the French champions. Bayer never-losing coach Xabi Alonso hopes to manage all three of his former clubs, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Bayern, but is not certain in which order. Bayern Munich's interest in Crystal Palace boss Oliver Glasner cooled after the Bundesliga club were told it would cost him £86 million in compensation to pull him from Selhurst Park. Yeah, good luck on pulling that. Napoli reopened talks with Antonio Conte about becoming their manager after the Italian lowered his wage demands with AC Milan. Also keen to speak to the former Chelsea and Spurs boss. That is from Il Mattino. What you thinking?
Conte is going to want. Conte can't help himself. He wants higher. He wants higher end players. That's not Milan's profile right now. So I think Gallardo is going to be the guy.
Huh.
And if it's not Gallardo, then I think they're going to try to see if they can lure De Zerbi out of England, and then maybe Conte can come in. But it's going to be interesting to see how that works. So.
Yes.
If it is Antonio Conte in Milan, there's going to be a huge knock-on effect. So because a lot of the players who are there now will not meet Conte's requirements. So.
Correct. That is absolutely correct, sir. Also on the board, it appears Sevilla and Sergio Ramos currently playing at Sevilla at the age of 38. Apparently, he is in advanced talks with San Diego FC about a move to play in Major League Soccer. First, we heard it was Chucky Lozano. Chucky Lozano's kind of like, not sure. Sergio Ramos at the age of 38, however, is kind of like, yeah, I think I might be kicking the tires on that.
Well, it's San Diego. I was in San Diego recently.
Yes, you were.
You would not have to pay me very much to move there. Just throwing that out there. It would not. It would not cost very much to get me out there. If I were anyone with discernible talent, that would be yeah. And San Diego needs to change the logo. The logo is beyond stupid.
Ashley Cole being targeted by several championship clubs to take over as manager. Donny van de Beek's agent has claimed that the Dutch midfielder will not be a part of Manchester United's long-term future. Chelsea looking forward to signing everybody. But first and foremost, looking to sign a forward, left back, and a central defender in the summer, with their sporting director set to be entrusted with their transfer business. Nani is on the lookout for a new club after his contract with Demirspor was terminated. A number of Manchester United players are unconvinced by Rasmus Højlund's ability to find the net, so have been reluctant to pass to him during matches.
Yeah.
And according to Dell, Rafa Varane looks like he's out the door as well. At Rafa Varane out the door at United. What to watch, where to watch it, and Soccer on LTV today. And no, not March 27. It's like you click on a link and it gives you like March 27. No, that's not what today is. So today, once again, you got Copa Libertadores today, and if you have not had the chance to catch up on our Copa Libertadores shows on the network, please do. You can catch up on all the daily. Triple header for Copa Libertadores on BN and BN and Espanol. You can pick that up. And get all the BNs. TIC, Nuestra Tele, For the Fans, Gold TV, all that stuff. Liga 1 Max at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the network, helps out the show, and helps them out, and helps you out to be a true degenerate. Triple header on Libertadores. LDU Quito Junior, River Plate, Libertad, Millonarios, and Palestinos, 6, 8:30, and 10. Spurs, Manchester City today at 3 o'clock. BN en Español is your simulcaster for those matches on Libertadores. ESPN Deportes, doubleheader in La Liga. Osasuna, Mallorca, Real Madrid, and Alaves. Universo simulcasting the Premier League. ESPN Plus, Triple header in La Liga, 1, 3:30, and 4. North Carolina FC Loudoun United's at 7 o'clock, and Paramount Plus has the Scottish Premiership with Rangers and Dundee at 2:30. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it all across the networks. Albania final. First games at 1. Twitch Pitch odds have been posted. Apparently, Twitch Pitch, they're doing their own picks of the week in the Discord. They have taken it upon themselves, Nick, to do a picks of the week in the Discord.
All right.
And Four Card is asking when we are joining. I didn't know, first off.
I didn't know.
So I guess whenever we can dive in and do Twitch Pitch odds. So
I have not been on Discord at all at any level, like not just for SDH, but across the board. I've not been on Discord in God knows how long. So,
so Albania final is
dig that up.
1 o'clock. Let's see. Is there a Picks of the Week channel for the Discord?
No. But Emilio asked earlier on if I had any faith and hope in Italy doing anything. At this point, no. Not until they're going to have to prove me wrong more than anything else. My love for them never dies, but I don't have a lot of faith in them right now.
Okay. Four Card, what channel in the Discord is my question. So that would be my first question. Where in the Discord, what channel is it on? Because I'm looking at all of our different text channels, and all I see is an update on the MNT, WMNT, and the COPA. And Twitch Pitch, okay, POTW, okay, Twitch Pitch, POTW, okay, thank you. So I will look in the POTW. Got it, thank you. There we go, okay. All right, so now we have all of the, all right, so Twitch Pitch, POTW. All right, I'm there, got it. All right, so when we're done, the Albania final is coming up in short order. All right, okay, I scrolled to the bottom, I found it. And I'm going to pick draw. I'm going to pick and draw for all of them, just to spite all of you.
Oh, God.
So we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning, and we will discuss things in a little less than 22 hours' time. Like I said, busy show. We're previewing Cincinnati. We're moving on to Cincinnati. So we're going to talk Cincinnati, Tyler Pilgrim, maybe Dylan Butler, some guy named Longshore. We've also got a bit of a midweek whip around to get into with all the other matches that are there on the day. So, Nick, since you are here, go ahead and send us home.
Until next time, everybody, make sure that you are going full gegenpress in your own lives. Turn it up to a friggin' 11, baby. That's what we're doing today. Until next time, mucha, mucha Euro, y'all.
What he said, less than 22 hours. We'll be right back.